Welcome, impactful parents. Today, we're going to be talking about how to navigate having a new driver in the home and reduce the stress for you and your teenager. Hello, my name is Christina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school age children who want to be one step ahead of their kid to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that has taught every grade from preschool through high school. And today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. Welcome to The Impactful Parent. Today I have a special guest. His name is Nigel Tunnacliffe. And Nigel is a parent, a driving instructor, and founder and CEO of Coastline Academy, which is the largest driving school in the country. Now, Coastline has taught more than 250,000 students to be safe and confident drivers for life. And I'm happy to have Nigel on the show today to give us some guidance on how to train our kids to drive without the yelling and white knuckles on our dashboard. So thank you for being here today, Nigel.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I hear, it seems to me that the first mistake I see parents making when approaching this new phase of parenthood is expecting their child to have a similar experience as they had. But things have changed so much since we were kids. I mean, just even the attitude of kids driving has completely changed. So let's talk about what are some of those changes and what's required for teens to get a license today.
Sure. Well, when we were teenagers, probably you all took driver's ed in high school, and that just doesn't really exist anymore. So around the 90s, 2000s, school budgets were cut, and driver's ed was cut from almost every high school across the country, which means that now, in order to earn a license, you've got to choose a private driving school to fulfill that same requirement. So that's the first big change. I think there's a lot of other changes as well, but just that's something that a lot of parents raise to me. Hey, how come we can't take this in high school? Well, there's just no money in the school system for that anymore.
Another thing that I see that parents don't understand is the kid that does not want to get their license. Like there's this thing now where when we were kids, getting our license, it meant freedom. It meant a rite of passage. Today, driving doesn't do that for kids. It's the phone. The phone is the freedom and the rite of passage that driving used to be. And so I've even had one myself. I had a kid because I have four. Two of the four are already in college, so they were drivers. But the second one did not want to get a license. And it took me so long to wrap my head around that. Like, how could you not possibly want to get a license when I just expected that they would feel the same way about it then as I do? And really, kids don't. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit about how are kids feeling today?
Yeah. So I know when I was 16, I was so excited, just like you. I want to get my license on my birthday, and it's a really big deal. And we see a lot of kids not feeling that same way, but actually, that's still in the minority. Most teenagers still get their license between the age of 16 and 18. They might not be going in on their birthday necessarily, but still, the vast majority of teens still get their license while they're a teen. And I think one thing that gets overlooked is it is so much easier to learn to drive when you're a teenager. We have a lot of folks coming to us in their 20s or early 20s or late 20s once they've already moved out of the house and they need to learn to drive for the first time. It is so much harder to learn to drive when you're older, not just because everything's harder to learn when we're older, but because you don't have the same access to a family vehicle to practice. And actually, most of learning to drive is not the driving lessons, it's the practice time between the driving lessons. And so I think that's one thing that can be really helpful to impart on our kids is, hey, you might not be so motivated to jump in and do this on your birthday, but if you wait, it is going to be so much harder. And we still have quite a few kids who are getting their license on their birthday. That's one of the things we really try to do. is enable those birthday day road tests so that you can still get that same excitement. And it may not be every kid, but there's a whole lot of kids out there that are still super excited to get that freedom at the earliest possible opportunity.
Now, some kids just aren't on the ball enough to get it on the day of the same way we did. And I'm assuming that's for a variety of reasons and just more requirements that are needed today. Can you talk to us about why? Why is that? Why can't they just get their license on their 16th birthday the way that we used to?
Yeah, well, I think part of the reason is that it takes more steps that you have to initiate yourself. So when we were kids and you just get taught driver's ed in high school and you fulfilled that requirement, and now it's just about actually going and taking the test on your birthday. Um, Now you've got to go through a few steps, but it's not that hard. You just need to kind of take that initiative. So the first step is you've got to sign up for driver's ed. Now, most states you can do this online. Some states you still have to do it in a classroom. And so you'll find a driving school like Coastline Academy or a well-reviewed school in your area. And it's typically about a 30-hour course. So you've got to plan out that time, but usually you can do it online. And you got to go through all of those steps of completing that course. Then you got to take a test. Usually that's at a DMV. So you've got to sign up in advance. You don't want to be sitting there and waiting for 3 hours for a same day appointment. Plan that in advance. And once you've taken that written test and you get your permit, that's when driving lessons start. So you want to take at least 6 hours of driving lessons, which is the minimum required in almost every state. We recommend 10 hours. And in between every lesson, you got to be practice with your folks. So as parents, that's one of the things that we need to be really prepared for. Is it's not that you sign up your kid for driving school and then they take care of everything, because actually you've got to spend about 50 hours in the car with your new driver, helping them sort of reinforce those skills that they were taught in their driving lessons.
So that brings me to what's the role that parents play in learning to drive this process with the new driver?
Yeah. So I think the number one role is you need to model good driving behavior. And I will admit that is hard for a lot of us who've been driving for 20 or 30 years. And, it's second nature. And so it's not really that big of a deal. It feels like to just check your phone or, be drinking coffee on the go or whatever it is that you're doing and kind of, but it's when your new driver is sort of entering that time where they're going to be learning to drive, it's so important to model great behavior, because that's what they're going to start picking up on even before they take their driver's ed or their first lesson. The
I
second thing is, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I could just that role modeling behavior, it's tough, and I think that's another mistake I see a lot of parents making is that they take the stance of do what I say and not as I do, but really that's a bunch of crap. It never works. The kids are going to do exactly what you do. So if you're on the phone while you're trying to talk, or talking on the phone while you're driving, or answering phone calls while you're driving, or looking things up, or using MapQuest, all that trickles down. It just does.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's number one. Number two is, um, once your teen starts taking driving lessons, um, especially in those first few weeks, it's not that you now suddenly have a private driver that's going to take you around from place to place and you're just kind of sitting in the passenger seat being transported. At the beginning, that practice time between lessons needs to be a focused practice experience, just like they're, uh, you know, practicing an instrument or training for a sport. You learn a few skills in your first lesson, and then you need to reinforce those skills. That means driving slowly around the neighborhood, going to stop signs and making left and right turns and parking. Um, and that means you're probably not going to make it to Safeway, because that's going to involve traffic lights, multi-lane streets, and more advanced driving. And we don't want to take them there until they've actually been taught those skills in their driving lessons. So
So
that's sort
that
of the
brings me,
second
I'm
thing.
going to
Yeah.
stop you for a second because that brings me
Yeah.
to, that would mean that as a parent, it's my responsibility to know what's in the lesson that they're doing right now. So I have to know that. Like, what do I ask the driving school what the lesson is that day? Or is that something we're participating together? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, any great driving school should be very communicative with the parents because this is a collaborative experience, right? So, at Coastline, um, at the beginning of every lesson, we try to talk to the parents and understand, what practice has been happening already. Where is the student at as they're heading into that lesson? And then after every lesson, we send a lesson report showing what skills were worked on, how they're progressing along those skills, and what they should be really focused on working on next. And then as a parent, you take that away and say, okay, we've really got to work on lane positioning. So that doesn't mean driving to Safeway. That means let's spend 20 to 30 minutes driving around our neighborhood working on lane positioning. And guess what? As a parent, that is a whole lot easier than white knuckling and yelling as you're navigating some experience that your teen is going through for the first time, because you're just building on and reinforcing what they've already been taught.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I love that you're giving parents what they do. So we don't have to sit there and listen or ask our teen even worse, like, what did you learn today? Because who knows how accurate that is. So
Yeah,
I
how
love
was
that
your
you're,
lesson today? Oh, it's good.
yeah, exactly. That's what they're gonna get. So, and it also sounds like, I mean, right off the get-go, this is a time commitment for parents to teach your child how to drive. And I think we got to get into that frame of mind now
Mhm.
when they're like 14. So we're preparing ourselves for that. And gone are the days where, yeah, we just kind of we outsource that. And somebody else is going
Yep.
to teach our kid. This sounds like it's a commitment. And with commitment,
Especially,
that comes
yeah.
some responsibility. Like now we got to time management this. When are we going to fit it into our schedule?
Yep.
Yeah, this is a little bit more complicated. And I think some people realize.
Yeah, especially at the beginning. And so one of the things that we do at Coastline Academy is we do home pickups. So you don't have to take your kid to the driving school and wait for 2 hours or whatnot. We'll come and pick them up. So that kind of helps fit it into your busy schedule. But that practice time is so important. And once you're a month in or so, maybe 6 weeks in, depending on the pacing of lessons, that's when you can start to use your new driver as transportation, because they will have learned all of the key skills in order to navigate uh, through your neighborhood into the sort of light commercial areas where you're dealing with traffic lights and lane changes and parallel parking and that kind of thing. And then you can actually just have them drive your family errands with you as a passenger, um, in order to kind of build those hours in, and that becomes a lot easier. You still have to be focused. You still have to work with them to kind of build those skills, and your own, do your own work to stay calm through the process and react as you need them to react, and maybe not what you're feeling inside when they come a little too close to a parked car or something like that. Um, but it gets easier as long as you're ready to kind of make that commitment up front at the beginning of the process.
So, when teens learn to drive, this is so stressful for parents. So many anxieties and worries come up. We go into this season of our parenthood with really big fears. So, what is your best advice for parents experiencing this kind of anxiety? How should parents manage the stress that's going to be involved with this?
Yeah, it's well, one thing to keep in mind is it's not just stressful for you. This is also stressful for your new driver. Just think about the number of things that a teenager learns from zero as a teenager. It's almost nothing, right? If you have a volleyball player in your house, they will have played volleyball for the first time when they were a kid. And or if they're learning an instrument, they're probably not picking up the trumpet as a 16-year-old and trying it for the first time. They will have worked over a few years. And so um, any brand new skill comes with some stress, some anxiety about, oh, am I going to be good at this? Can I be a driver? maybe I'm just going to be terrible. Um, and also there's some real risk involved. And so I think starting with a point of from a standpoint of empathy and knowing that, hey, this is hard for you, but this is also really hard for your teen. And so kind of putting yourself in their shoes and being supportive of them as they're navigating that stress and anxiety. And then for yourself, just remember this is just one little step at a time. You start with helping them learn the theory as they take their driver's ed course. Then you help them get driving lessons and support with the sort of the simple practice and repetition to help them build those skills. And then you will see that new driver in your house building those skills, building their confidence, and that's going to build your confidence as well. So by the time you get to the point where they're getting licensed and you're handing over the keys and setting rules and boundaries and safe alternatives for driving on their own, you can have a lot more confidence in their decision making because you've sat in that car with them hour after hour through their practice and you've seen them develop and demonstrate those skills.
Can you give us some signs that our child is ready to get behind the wheel? So, in case we're like, I don't know if they're ready or not, it's tough for parents to know.
Yeah. Well, first of all, just getting behind the wheel with like in a lesson environment and in a practice environment, that can come early than maybe you think. Because this is a whole process. And just because you start that process when they're 15 and a half doesn't mean it needs to end when they're 16. If that new driver needs more time, you can stretch that process out. Your permit in most states is good for a year. You can just renew it, right? So you don't need to be making this decision before they get into the car for the first time to say, okay, you're ready to be a driver, go. It's a process. And so I think at that initial stage, it's just about demonstrating sort of basic responsibility, and are they being responsible in other areas of their life where you can progressively provide this new responsibility and freedom. And then it's a transition all the way through to when they're ready to go and take their test to earn their license. At that point, you're also making a choice where together you're deciding, do you have the responsibility to go and be a driver on your own? Are you able to follow the family rules about car use, about driving with friends, about being safe, making safe choices? And if they're not quite ready at that point to be out there on their own, you can either just wait a bit longer and build those skills and that responsibility, or they can get their license, but then you can work on that progressive freedom through your family car use rules. And so I think if you look at your 15 and a half year old in the house and try to think, are they ready to be driving on their own? The answer is no. It's going to take some time. And so you can get the process started and then work through it over time and kind of build that comfort together.
I love that because it is hard to look at your child and go, I can't imagine this kid behind a moving vehicle. So you don't even want to get started. But to tell parents that this is going to be a process, they'll grow into that role. They'll grow into our confidence over time with this whole process of doing this. And hopefully that'll give us a little bit of help to get started. I would like to know, what are some effective strategies for helping a teenager to develop confidence? Because I think
Mhm.
about that second kid I had teaching him how to drive. And of course, he didn't get his license right away. He wasn't all that excited. But it turns out that that kid put off learning how to drive because of a huge lack of confidence in himself in being able to navigate a vehicle. I mean,
Mhm.
it just really came down to that. I was actually shocked to know that the kid didn't have any confidence in himself and how to do this, and was scared, just scared that something was going to
Mhm.
happen or that out of control. How do you help teenagers that are in that sort of position?
Yeah, well, our motto is teaching safe and confident drivers for life. confidence is such an important part of being a good driver because um, you can't be safe in a car by just holding back. You need to be defensive. You need to plan ahead. You need to operate the vehicle with confidence. You need to be able to react. Um, and I find as an instructor, I find it so gratifying when we get that new driver in the car that lacks confidence. They think, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be a good driver," and we build it up step by step. And you start to see the light go on, and you can see them kind of growing their confidence over time. And it's like learning any new skill. If you are, uh, if you're going to join the football team and you've never played football, you're not going to join the varsity team. You're going to start at the very beginning and you're going to work your way up one step at a time. And that's how to build the confidence through doing drills and practice and training, just like learning any new thing. And so I think what can be really helpful with those new drivers who lack confidence is just focus on the little steps, just one at a time. If you are lacking confidence, maybe it's just a little bit of extra work in the studying as you're going through and learning the theory, and practicing more so that when you go and take that test, you're going to get 100% or close to it. And that's a confidence builder because you've spent the extra time in learning the material. And when you're going out and taking your first lesson, if as a parent, communicating that to the driving instructor that, hey, my son or daughter here, they're nervous, they don't know if they can do this, that can help us as educators to work with them a little bit more slowly and build that confidence up sort of one layer at a time. And then that when it comes back to you as a parent to practice with them, you got to do the same thing. Just a little lap around the neighborhood, some work in a parking lot, and get them just with a lot of repetition to kind of get the feeling of success at these sort of entry level skills before pushing them to do something more advanced. Me personally, I find those folks who struggle a little bit more and just take a little bit more time so much more satisfying, because at the end, them and their parents are so joyful that they have gone through this process and they got up over these hurdles, and now they passed their test and they're out driving on their own and they're being safe drivers. And it's such a big accomplishment for the new driver and the family and everything. And so we just want to make sure that doesn't get lost in this where you think, oh, this is going to be hard. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but you know what? I think the best things in life are hard. And once you get through those challenging parts, it's the finish line is really exciting.
It is exciting and so nice not to have to drive our kids everywhere and have them be helpful instead. It's a new world. It opens up a whole new world of parenting and a different season in where you'll be. So, yes, it's awesome. And tell me more about Coastline. If parents are resonating with our episode today and still need a driving school, tell us a little bit about what you do and where we can get more information.
Yeah, thank you. I started Coastline back in 2018, first as an instructor myself, and then growing to a national driving school. And it's been a really exciting journey, and it's so exciting for me to share the learning to drive experience with so many new drivers across the country. We don't operate everywhere. We're in 8 states, California, Colorado, Texas, Illinois, and a few others. So if you're at the beginning of the learning to drive journey for a new driver in your home, you can go to coastlineacademy.com, see if we serve your area. And otherwise, there are great driving schools all across the country. So even if we don't serve the area, do a little bit of research, look for good reviews, and this can be a great experience for everybody as you get that new driver up and going in your house.
And how do we get a hold of Coastline?
Yeah, you can email hello@coastlineacademy.com. We try to respond really quickly to everybody who reaches out. You can call or text our phone number, and that is a great way as well. If your new driver wants to initiate this process themselves, we're really responsive by text, and so we can help sort of take those steps through the process. Or just go to our website, coastlineacademy.com, and learn more about what's involved in your state, because every state has different licensing rules and such.
And when is the optimal time to reach out to a company like yours?
Yeah, so a lot of people try to get driving lessons in the summer. Um, uh, that also means those lessons book up really quickly. So the best time to find availability that meets your schedule is in the fall. So right now is a great time to go and get this process started, because you're more likely to be able to get a schedule that lines up with the school activity schedule that you have going on for your busy teenager. And we pick up at school, so you can line it up so that your teen gets out of school, and then they can meet their instructor there and take their lesson. And so it can be fairly convenient to fit in those times. And yeah, the beginning of the school year is a great time to think about sort of taking this next step.
Yes, thank you for that. We needed that reminder, Nigel, that this is another milestone in our kids' life and an opportunity for us to have some really cool memories and bonding moments as we teach them something new, which we haven't had in a while since, most of the learning and teaching we do is when they're so little. And so it's a great opportunity for parents, and I hope we look at it that way. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you decided to be here today. Begin your Impactful Parent journey by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free so that you can carry help, tips, and parenting resources right in your pocket. Download the app today. It's a free download, so go to your phone's app store and discover how you can step up your parenting game and become a more impactful parent. And also remember that this episode is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Also available are online courses, parent support groups, coaching services, and of course, the app. So go to theimpactfulparent.com to find out more. But until next time, you got this. I'm just here to help.